We ready? Steady. Good afternoon and welcome to another Grays of Westminster live stream, live from London.
Hello.
I am Becky.
Constantine.
Yes. As you may have noticed yesterday, we did a slightly different Nikon report. That was due to some technical issues earlier on in the week. We do try and plan and prepare for stuff.
No, we don't.
And then it all gets thrown out the window and then we have to do it live anyway. So that was fun. It's lovely to have you all here with us. Please do give us a like, a little thumbs up at the beginning. Thank you to the 19 of you who have done that. It is a glorious day here in London. It is very sunny.
And we are here inside.
And we're indoors. But anyway, we're going to talk about photography today for change.
What's that?
So we've talked about cameras and lenses and stuff a lot recently. So we thought we'd talk about photography that inspires us. And
you see, if it's not amount of megapixels and focus points, I'm not interested.
You don't care.
Because that's not photography, apparently.
No,
so
it's
yeah,
not.
that's what the internet thinks, yeah.
So we are going to talk about the pictures that inspire us, photographers that inspire us, and also get your input as well. I've picked some slightly different ones that people won't expect, as well as some of the ones that I think
the popular choice and
the popular choice, and
yeah.
maybe the less popular
Okay.
choice. Before we dive in, please do, if you want to contribute to the coffee fund, it is where is it? Somewhere.
Oh, it's next to you now.
Somewhere here is
Yes.
the coffee fund. So please do do that if you would like to keep us caffeinated. We'd very much appreciate it. It's down here. Woo! Or if you're on an iPad, I think it's somewhere else. I don't know. Anyway, and also the giveaway for this week is a little bit different.
Know
what it
are we
is?
giving away?
We're giving away. So we are giving away a copy by a very famous person. This is the first book in a trilogy. If you are not an urban fantasy lover, you can give this as a gift. This is Divided by Magic, written, yes, by yours truly.
Who is Rebecca Danesi?
She's a really cool gal.
Oh,
If I say so
So you got
myself.
Joan Rowling, Rebecca Danesi.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, so I'm going to give away a copy of this. As I say, it's actually young adult urban fantasy, but I know plenty of adults that have read it and enjoyed it. So that will be our giveaway. If you would like to win, just say, I would like to win in the comments, and we will pick a winner at the end.
Hold on, is this the part of the trilogy?
This is the first part of the
It's the
trilogy.
first.
Yeah.
That's the one that hooks you in.
That's right.
All right.
I have book 2 and book 3.
I think I'm still on this part as well.
You haven't read that
on
one?
page 0, I think I
Oh.
am. Yeah, but I'll get there at some point.
You will. You will one day. I'll have written another 3 books by then.
But it is signed by the author. I can tell you that.
It is, yes.
Yes. So it's actually on eBay right now. It's only £500, but you know.
Okay, good. You put my book on eBay.
Exactly.
Appreciate
Gotta make money
it.
somehow.
That's
you know.
right. So, shall we dive in?
Yes, let's do
Okay,
that.
there'll be a lot of screen sharing here, so let me see what I can do. The first picture that I have chosen is a little bit, maybe not what you'd expect. I've had to do some of these on websites for the simple reason that for copyright reason and stuff like that, I wanted to not steal the images. But if I make that big, there you go, then you can kind of see it.
So you haven't discovered right click and save.
No, it doesn't exist on some of the copyright
right,
websites.
okay.
Don't be smart with me. Okay, so this is an image by probably one of the earliest female photographers. It was taken in 1925 by Imogen Cunningham. And she was kind of a pioneer in photography for ladies, or I should say women photographers.
Photographers for ladies.
Oh, sorry, it came out completely wrong. Not what I was trying to say at all. But her work, if I just show you the website, her work also included portraits of Frida Kahlo, and she did botanicals, nudes. She also did portraiture. Very, very interesting sort of studies of the human form, I would say, as well as nature. The reason that I picked this image as our first image, apart from the fact that it's 1925, and of the set of images that I chose.
So it's pre-Mapplethorpe. Yeah,
Yes.
it's famous for photographs of flowers in black and white.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Is because it's a picture that you could achieve at home. It doesn't require necessarily any specialist techniques, and yet it's very, very artistically done. Do you see
Is
what I
that
mean?
how you got into macro?
What, by shooting at home?
Exactly.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. But I thought personally, if I was going to show a bunch of images, I didn't want to just show images that were, that you had to travel halfway across the planet to take.
That's true.
Right, this is a magnolia flower. There's a couple of close-up shots on the, if you have a look at Imogen Cunningham and her work online, you'll find some close-ups of various different flowers, of lilies and things like that, which are all things that, as I say, you can do at home. This was in 1925. We're still doing it today. I think it's a lovely picture.
Just put an Instagram black and white filter on it.
Yes, you can do that too. You don't have to shoot on film if you
Well,
don't
that's
want
what
to.
kids call it nowadays, filter.
They
It's
do
not
call
black
it
and
a
white
filter.
photography, you see.
No, they just whack a filter on there. I know, it's funny, isn't it? It's very, very different. But anyway, so that was the first. I thought I would kick it off with a slightly more kind of artsy, more subjective image.
All right, you went this route. Okay,
I did.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, let's see what's next.
Okay, so mine have gone in, as I say, in date sequence. I've tried to do it that way.
Okay.
So the next one is an image that you will know. Let me pull it up full screen before I switch over to... You see that one?
Oh, yeah. I've seen that one before.
Yes.
I think it's in Pimlico, isn't it?
Yeah, so these were 11 workers who helped to construct what's now the GE building in
General Electric.
Rockefeller Plaza, right?
Not the GME building.
No.
No, okay.
Funnily enough, there's an interesting story about this image. It was actually staged as a publicity campaign. And it came out much later that there's a platform beneath these guys. But because it was at a time when America was really, let's say, struggling, Great Depression, everything like that, it kind of showed, US resilience and the worker mentality of we're going to have lunch and defy odds by sitting on top of a beam. Yeah, defy gravity. And one thing that I like about it more so than just the guy suspended in air is Central Park in the background.
That's true. That's the best thing out of it.
You can tell where it is without really even knowing where it is, just based on and you've got, is that the Hudson River along that side there?
Yeah, I think it's East 36 and Avenue 8, I think, yeah.
Are you making that up, or you know that?
I can give you the zip code as well.
I know that you've actually spent time and lived in New York, whereas I haven't. But I really like that image.
It is beautiful.
And interesting little fun fact for you is that the photographer is now known as unknown. So nobody technically knows who took the photo. It was, as I say, staged because it was part of a promotional campaign. The photograph, I believe, is owned by... or was at one point owned by a photographer, Charles C. Ebbets. But as far as I know, he then said, no, wasn't taken by me. I own the rights to it somehow. Anyway, I think it was a nice sort of little touch for that ad campaign. So that's my picture number 2.
It's a good one. You see, in the time of the Photoshop, they would erase this wire that's crossing one person.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's true. And potentially they could have done that even in darkroom days. It's still entirely possible. But
a bit of masking.
I think it kind of, or maybe putting the background in afterwards, if you see what I mean. I don't know. I think that it kind of draws the eye a little bit more to that side, doesn't it? Because it breaks it up. If you got rid of that entirely, then it would just not draw the eye.
And if you look at the lines of the image, so the image visually goes kind of from right to left, but then the background goes kind of from bottom left to the top right.
Yeah.
So visually, again, it's not very centered, it's not 90 degrees.
No, exactly.
But it's visually quite striking.
Yeah, it is, absolutely, just to show you what we're talking about there, because I realised that you were just looking at our faces, looking at the screen. Fascinating.
Oh, look at that.
But yeah, absolutely. As images go, the leading lines, if you like, are kind of at odds with one another. But it almost breaks up the image and draws you. And also just little details, like, for example, the chap that's helping to light the other guy's cigarette. I mean, in this day and age, they wouldn't all have cigarettes in their mouth, let's face it.
How many matches do you think you wasted? I'm sure it was a bit windy in there, no?
I think he's using his cigarette to light the other guy's cigarette.
Ah, fair enough.
Like in the good old days.
Good old days, yeah.
When you could do stuff like that. But anyway, I like it.
It is nice.
I think it's quite a fun image. Right, so that was my image number 2. I'm just going to check the comments quickly. There's a lot of people saying I'd like to win. So Dennis says Hudson River would be to the left of the picture. Okay, so what's that river?
East River?
Could be. My geography of New York is not
So that looks to
non-existence.
me, so that's New Jersey on the left-hand side. So, yeah. So you got, was it Hudson
Central
River,
Park.
East River, and then
Central Park's in the middle of them.
Central, well, yeah, it's in Manhattan, so Manhattan is kind of an island.
Okay.
We know a lot about New York.
I've never been. I've never
you should
been.
go, it's fun.
The only thing I know about New York is what I see on TV.
Fair enough.
On Castle.
Okay, well, Brooklyn Bridge is not on this picture, I can tell you that.
Thank you very much to Ian and Vince and Jeremy and Terry for your contributions to the Coffee Fund.
Thank you very much.
So very much. Okay, so Dennis says to the right would be the East River. This is a person that knows the knows the geography of New York. This wasn't supposed to be a geography lesson. Anyway, so so that's my second choice.
All right, that's a good choice.
As a picture that inspires me for various different reasons. All right. Now, this one is possibly a little bit more of a serious one. I'm trying to remember whether I extracted it. Yes, I did. Let me just get the computer to... It's going great so far. So good. All right. So this is a picture taken by Dorothea Lang or Lange. I'm not sure how you pronounce her name. She was instructed to kind of document the Great Depression. And although obviously as an image, it's not an uplifting image, the image is called Migrant Mother, but just the mother with her children sort of hiding their faces. It's such an interesting portrait. And it's very much of an era. Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, yes, technically you could say that image was taken in any refugee camp, anywhere where people are kind of suffering, but it really kind of marks the time, I think. And also because another female photographer who took so many images over her career, but this is the one that's always stuck out to people. This is why I picked this one. I mean, as a portrait, it's also very candid. It's not posed in any way.
It tells the story.
It really does. And so when taking portrait, I mean, you're more of a portrait photographer than I am. In terms of, do you ever do candid portraits or anything like that?
Yes, I think there's a place for candid photography and capturing the moment, and there's a place for stage photography.
Yeah.
So in terms of this, it really depends on the choice of the photographer to decide. And in this one, it's kind of captured the moment.
Yeah, exactly. So that was why I picked that one. Oh, it's interesting. A few people are mentioning there. So Sam says, does the New York picture inspire the Grays team to recreate it? That's a really good question. I would love to recreate some of these pictures. And I had the thought this morning when I was just putting the images in the folder, I was thinking, wouldn't it be fun to recreate some of these pictures?
Yeah, I don't want to be in the picture. I want to be taking the picture. Because I don't want to be sitting on that.
You don't want to be sitting above skyscrapers. That's a really good question, Sam. If any of you at any point decide you want to recreate a picture, not one of the ones that we show necessarily, but recreate a famous picture, if you want to pop it in the drive folder or send it over to our email, I would love that.
Yeah, don't do it at home.
Yeah, don't do that one at home.
Yeah.
Unless you've got, all the stuff, and then you can just Photoshop out all the...
Yeah, green screen, everything, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Dixon points out the E is silent in Lang, so it's just Lang. In Lange. I said Lange because I wasn't sure, but Lang. There you go. Thank you for letting me know that. Roy said, are there any volunteers to hang off the roof at Grays of Westminster to recreate that one?
I'm good.
Maybe we could get Sam. Yeah, no? Okay, maybe we could get Sam to do it.
The brave one.
I think we need 11 people for that one, plus the photographer, plus the lighting assistant.
And the lunch expenses.
Lunch expenses. So any volunteers, let us know. Let's see what we can put together. Nick Han says, and I'm thinking that this is an inspirational photo suggestion, Uli Stelica tackle on Diego Maradona in 1982 World Cup. Yes, I didn't put that one. Did you put that one in your collection? No, but that's a good suggestion, actually. It's a shame we can't also comment with pictures. It would be handy, wouldn't it? Because then we'd be able to see it.
But we do have another sports photography in the folder.
We do, that's right. Johnny English 2020 is here for Steve McCurry. Yeah, don't worry, coming.
Coming right up.
On its way. Jim says, are there images from British photographers of the Great Depression era? I mean, not that I know of, because...
Since I'm British, let me tell you.
Yes, you tell me.
No.
Okay, thanks. Helpful.
Happy to help.
Dixon's gonna volunteer for the skyscraper recreation when we travel, as is Sam. So that's great.
We should take up hiking, I think.
Now,
not climbing.
We could do. It's funny because Imazik, I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly, said the migrant mother picture is very controversial. There are stories the picture might have been staged, but surely made an impact. I think, and you know what's interesting is that even if it was, that the emotional impact that it creates wasn't detracted from just because of that fact. I didn't find anything to say that it was staged, but you know, at the same time, this happens with a lot of pictures. Even the New York skyscraper one that I showed you with the workers, that was not said that it was staged for years, until many, many years after it was taken, at which point the publicity company admitted that there was a platform. The workers were still there. There was just a safety net, so it wasn't quite as dangerous, and rightfully so.
Yeah,
really,
it's definitely an interesting conversation.
It is. Health and safety was in place for that
Oh,
shot.
yeah, sure. I'm sure they signed the model releases as well. The forms.
Maybe. Thank you to David for your contribution to the copy fund as well. Nick's pointed out that there are some pictures going back further. Now here's the thing, my sort of pick starts from basically the 20th century.
You was born.
No, not 1925 onwards,
Okay.
but from the 20th
very
century.
young.
Thank you. There were plenty of photos that I thought of picking out from the 1800s, you know, like the very early photography years, but they didn't inspire me as much as these ones did. And that was the topic. So
Well, mine are completely different.
I knew that you were going to bring different ones to the table. I was sure that you were. Okay, so next for me is a very famous one that I am going to try and pull up on the screen here when my computer cooperates. There we go. The iconic kiss in New York.
Oh, yes.
Times Square, 1945, end of the war. I just love this picture. I think, apart from the fact that you can obviously tell when it was taken, and I love the framing, and obviously it was quite, what's the word? It was quite opportune of the photographer.
Do you think the war was over by then?
The war was over.
All right.
Well, here's the story. The photographer that I'm now trying to remember the name of, which I wrote down, but is in a different place. One moment, please, while I find it. The photographer was called Alfred Eisenstaedt. Can't pronounce that. And he had been tasked, I believe it was by Life magazine.
Yes. It was a Life magazine photographer.
Yeah, to basically capture the hope and joy and storytelling of the time period. And obviously, end of World War II, August 14th, the whole mood in New York City, and just capturing that moment, which has become a picture which has basically become iconic and is still 80 years on.
The feeling of hope, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it really kind of encapsulates what it must have felt like on that day. So in terms of a photograph that... I'm sorry, I have to switch back over so that they can see the photograph. There we go. In terms of a photograph that really kind of captures the feeling of the moment, I think that's it. And I think it also I think it shows that as a photographer, sometimes the pictures do kind of just fall into your lap almost. Obviously, you have to be in the right place at the right time.
Do you think they knew each other when they did that?
I don't actually know. No. I've heard different stories. I've heard stories that it was just a spur of the moment thing. I've heard stories that they actually knew each other from pre-war time. I don't know what the truth of any of those are, but I just think...
Yeah, it should be called love at first sight.
Yeah, it could be. But I think it's lovely. And I also think that it just goes to show, particularly for street photographers and journalists and things like that, a lot of it is just being there with the camera.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we can all take a leaf out of that book. Just take your camera everywhere.
Get out of the house. Take some pictures.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, we all have cameras in our pockets now, so it's much easier to capture those moments. In this day and age, it was harder. to do. I mean, it's so much harder. You had to be very prepared if you wanted to go out and take pictures.
Imagine taking selfies like in 1985 or something.
Yeah.
Does anyone have a camera?
Well,
It's kind of awkward, isn't it?
It is a bit of an awkward thing. I mean, obviously, photography changed a lot over the years. We had a lovely gentleman in the other day. It was Wednesday, so you weren't here. And he had photographed some of the biggest names, both Hollywood actors and musicians, over his very extensive career. And he'd said that, funnily enough, photography was, although he'd written to a lot of people to say, I want to take your portrait, and that's how he managed to get in there. It was a whole event. Going to take people's pictures was a whole thing. And now, you know, if this famous person walks down the road, everybody just whips out their camera phone and is like,
that's true,
put it straight on Instagram. It's very different. You know, in those days you had to maybe see the person 2 or 3 times to go through the preparation and then the contact sheet and pick the shots that they were happy with.
That's right. It's always interesting to see some of the early photographers, well, early, I mean, even from 80s, where they would publish their contact sheets and just go through the way they've selected the image.
Yeah.
So it's very different from what we have nowadays.
Very, very different. Exactly. Okay, so I missed some comments, so I'm just going to have a little look. Norm says, Karsh photo of Pablo Casals playing a cello in an old castle was an inspiration. Karsh told me that an old man would sit and stare at the photo for hours. When asked if he was okay, he said, shh.
Listen to the music.
I listen to the music. That's amazing. I love that. Don't know that one. So I missed another one. Bill Brandt, Depression era Britain. Borderlands has suggested that as him as a photographer to check out. Right. And also just having a look. Gosh, so there's a lot of really big comments here, so it's quite harder. Please do give us a thumbs up if you haven't already. Give us a like. We would very much like you to like us. Now, so yes, Richard also said maybe that the Migrant Mother picture was staged. It's interesting. And also other people, gosh, there's so many, I can't actually read all those comments. I'm going to not read those comments because they're too long. So next up, I wanted to pick a slightly different one. And some of you might know this one. Do you know this photo?
I've seen it.
Okay, so this picture was actually created by Harold Edgerton. He was an MIT engineer, MIT Labs engineer, and he was the first person to basically stop motion that the human eye couldn't track by creating electric flash.
So MIT is a famous American university, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. So he was also known as Papa Flash because he basically created, although we had, you know, the old flash powder system, and you had to throw them away once you were done.
That's true.
He was the creator of a rechargeable and reusable bulb that would allow you to freeze motion. The speed that would be required to freeze motion was 100,000th of a second. That was the speed of the flash. And he created a number of very famous images. His technology, sorry, I didn't catch that. When? Oh, sorry. It was in I have to go off the screen to look that up. It was in 1957. There you go. So, which is why it's quite amazing. And a lot of the technology that he used at the time is still used in Flash today. So I'm going to show you another example of that. Let me just... So this is another one of his shots, which was a bullet through an apple. His flash work with flash photography and stuff was then also used at various times for surveillance to see, you know, to light up whole towns and cities and things like that. But he said, I'm not an artist, I'm a scientist. You know, that's, which is really interesting because his pictures have kind of become an art in themselves. And yet that and the flash drop picture, which I will switch back over to there, this was one of the early ones, have become very, and it's called, I think it's called Corona of Milk or something like that.
Yeah, I'm just afraid of asking how did this image inspire you and how many bullets do you have at home?
How many bullets did I have to fire? The thing that I found inspiring about this one was nowadays, it's not, I would say, as it's easier to take shots like this for sure, but it's still not, I'd say, an exact science because it's got everything to do with timing. So when you go and you decide to take a picture like this, you still have to kind of be that engineering, you have to be that kind of geeky person.
You need to know, but cameras nowadays have all the tech that is necessary to get this type of shot, and that's something they didn't have at the time.
No, exactly. He also, interestingly enough, worked with someone you'll know once I just want to make sure I pronounce his name correctly. Jacques Cousteau.
Oh, yes.
You know Jacques Cousteau?
Yeah, I've heard
Who created the Aqualung.
I used to love to watch his documentaries every Sunday when I was a kid.
Underwater explorer Jacques Cousteau. So they also worked together, did some collaborations. Edgerton was actually working until he died at the age of 86. So he continued to work and shoot and work. And I was going to show you some of the other stuff. Let me just... This is very interesting for me, but I wanted to show you some of the other pictures that he was responsible. This is actually on a BBC Future article, but this was like a footballer kicking a ball, American football, obviously. And this was one, this is actually him in the shot just demonstrating the concept of this high-speed flash. Look, there's the before, there's the after. Look at those faces. Nice. Can't beat it. And this is a balloon that's been shot right before it explodes.
Incredible.
So anyway, if you are interested, go and have a look at Harold Edgerton and all his work, because I found it quite inspiring. It made me think, that high-speed photography is so much easier now with flashes. And it is all just down to timing. Whereas in that day, he actually invented something to get there.
I mean, now we have something like 20,000, 120,000 frames per second cameras.
Yes.
That can record actually a video of doing that. That's incredible.
Yeah, exactly. Right. One that already has sparked controversy in our stream, but it needs to be mentioned, is the Steve McCurry picture of the Afghan girl.
That's iconic image.
It is iconic, and it still gets talked about now. I mean, there are many, many interviews with him online about how the picture was taken, why he decided to choose this particular model for the picture, etc. It was on the cover of National Geographic. It's a very iconic picture. And although for me, I wouldn't necessarily take a picture like this myself, the thing that I like about it is the color scheme. Actually, it's the colors that really communicate to me. It's the background and her clothes and her very, very striking eyes and that kind of intensity of gaze. I think that requires. Yes, I know. I've seen the various different befores and afters and nows and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
He took a photograph of her when she was like 30, 40 years later.
Yeah, which is interesting to sort of recreate that shot. So anyway, I thought then no stream of iconic pictures could be had without mentioning Steve McCurry. Jan says Harold Edgerton's drop of milk splashing into a saucer was from 1938. Thank you for the date there. I did write it down somewhere, but forgot to mention it. Now let's go back a little bit, because I know I've missed some comments here. It's quite difficult to talk intensively whilst also reading comments, amazingly enough. So David says the sailor and the woman have recently been reunited. They were not known to one another at the time. This is from the Kiss in New York Times.
Yeah, just a friendly handshake.
I actually quite like that. I think that's really, really cute. And Johnny English says, this is why I love photography. The stories behind the images, a brief moment in time. That's right. So you've got the picture and then you've got the whole story behind the picture, and there really are some iconic things there and iconic moments. The story of Harold Edgerton and his whole kind of process of creating the repeating flash and flash work is fascinating to photographers as well, because as I say, a lot of that technology still gets used today.
Yeah, we come in from different angles. So from art photography to documentary capturing the moment to stage photography, and as well as scientific photography.
Exactly.
All of them are considered to be photography, and we can talk about it from different aspects of things.
For sure.
And I think that's quite important, because obviously everyone approaches photography differently.
Yes, exactly. Now I'm going to show a couple of our wonderful producers' picks.
Yeah, that one wasn't staged.
This one was not staged, and I'm going to show you this one. now. There we go. Except I need to move us. So I'm going to get rid of us. Boom. Look at that. We're not there anymore. This is a very iconic image. Foteini, why did you pick this one particularly? Can you see which picture I'm talking about?
No,
It's the...
Tiananmen Square.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us why you picked this one.
I picked this one because it shows in the most glorious way the win of human spirit against violence, against the horror of war. So I really admire the spirit of this person, whoever he is, and the guts he had to stand there and say, no, you're not going. And he knew that he would probably be dead in like within seconds, but he still did it.
Made a stand. Absolutely. No, it's a very iconic image and it is very inspiring. I do not recreate this one at home. But it is a stunning picture that that just kind of really stands the test of time. There was another one that you picked, which I also thought was interesting, which was this was a soldier jumping over the barrier. Where was it?
In Berlin.
In Berlin.
Right after they dichotomized Berlin.
Yeah.
And this is an East German soldier that at the last minute, he decided at this moment to jump over and join the other side.
Wow.
And the photographer knew the day before that there's gonna be a defection that day.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So he was at the right
right place, right time.
Exactly.
What I also love about this image is that there's another photographer in the frame who obviously also captured the moment.
He also got the tip.
He got the yeah, but the thing is that the picture that's iconic is the one that has the other photographer in it, and that's also interesting. It kind of creates an interesting juxtaposition between the two people in the frame. And the last one is this incredibly iconic image, which you picked, which is on the cover of our stream. Why did you pick this one?
Well, it's Muhammad Ali, who was an icon back in the day, and the whole match was a celebration of what is the word? You're putting me in the spot. Sorry. He was a role model for so many young men back then, black and white, but especially white, considering that this match happened in 1965. If I'm correct, please correct me if I'm wrong. And the whole game was, the whole fight was a celebration. Thousands of people went there to watch the game, to watch the fight, and it's just an iconic moment in the sports world.
And yes, very true. There you go. So that's our producers' top picks, which I all thought were fantastic. I mean, you know, I can't really add to that. So that I'm going to show yours next.
Those iconic images.
Yes, exactly. So you've picked whole people.
Yes, I think I'm going to talk, for me, photography, well, just we can take individual image and talk about them. I think for me, when I look at the photographers, I look at the body of work.
Yeah.
And what those images represent. So not just this particular image, but what they've done, what this project means.
Yes.
And it's also my personal choice. So lots of it, let's say the first photographer that we're going to look at it, who is Prokudin Gorsky. He's a Russian photographer.
Yeah.
And what he did back in early 20th century, the Tsar of Russia asked him to photograph Russia, to travel around Russia and photograph it. And what he did, though, is he shot it in color. So those are images from early, this is around 1909 or 1910.
Wow.
They shot in color. You don't think about photography from this time.
No.
In color. You think black and white.
You do automatically. I'm just going to make us a little bit smaller there so that we can fit while also not distracted from the image. That's fascinating, actually. You know how sometimes they take those old black and white pictures and then they colorize them and it makes them feel almost modern. And it's very much like that. And these were taken when?
Well, as early as 1909, and he traveled up to 1915.
Wow.
That was a very large format photography. He used to have several plates with different colors. This particular image is cropped, but actually, if you would look at the whole plate, it would have 3 different layers of color. He photographed the country before the revolution. And then he escaped when revolution happened. And his images actually were bought by American Library. and then they restored it.
Wow.
The thing, what for me is very personal, is he photographed the country before the revolution.
Right.
And since then, the course of the country has been changed.
Completely.
And even coming back to current political situation in where I'm from, that shows the country that could be,
Yes.
but not here anymore.
Yes, exactly. Like, for example, this one, which also is an image which now looking at it, you'd think, oh, that's someone in costume, not that was a person that's how
And it
they
doesn't look
dress.
like Russia.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. It's very interesting. There was another one that you took there, which is also very interesting. Something very Sound of Music about this one.
Yeah, it's
I'm
in
gonna-
Hyde Park.
I'm gonna,
I think.
I'm gonna get rid of us for a second so that you can see that completely. But again, very, very interesting to have those kind of historical pictures, but in color, as you say, not at all expected. So that was him.
That was him. So next one, let's go and to a bit of landscape photography. Let's go to Sebastia Salgado and his famous project Genesis.
Oh yes. Now, this is perfect for sorry, I forgot my shortcuts there. A weekend read and watch and listen.
Absolutely.
Because there is a documentary on him.
Yes.
What's it called? Sands of Time or something like that, which is incredible and well worth looking at anyway.
I mean, from striking imagery itself and just the use of black and white that a lot of photographers took from him after that.
Yes.
He pioneered this style, but it shows the world as it used to be before the environmental impact that humanity did, and that obviously we with the global warming, the world is changing.
Yeah.
So just to show this world on the brink of things, I think it's quite important.
It is. And so that's an incredible image to look at that sort of floor to ceiling size, but look at that.
What I like as well, that he's not only using, let's say, long telephoto lenses and taking portraits, he also shooting the more kind of documentary wide angle style, and the next image will show that, where he goes with wide angle lens.
Wow.
Right in the middle of the scene.
Yes.
So he uses different approaches, but also part of it telling the story about the environment and the world we live in. It's also a documentary photography. It's a landscape photography.
Yeah.
It's everything. And I mean, the book is a must-have, and I recommend, if you haven't got that book, I recommend to buy it. It's an amazing book.
Wow. Well, there you go. So that's Sebastia Salgado. Yes, also a very inspirational photographer. I would agree with that, and I love that choice. Okay, next we have. Oops.
Let's go to Nadav Kanda. He is a current contemporary photographer working in advertising, fashion, and art. This is the book which one of my favorite books is called Yangtze River. He traveled to Yangtze River back in 2006, and he photographed the country. The China developing China. So it's a contrast of old and new, where you see people living the old way with the massive structures. And obviously, if you look at the images, the color palette, there's a lot of pollution there.
Yes.
He captures the country on the verge of development.
Yes.
And it's very interesting because, you have this really interesting mix of old and new. And composition, again, you wouldn't think that this is, let's say, cropped person on the right-hand side is a good way of composing the image, but it works.
It actually really does work. And it's so interesting because it draws the way that the sort of, what is that? It's part of a beach, but not quite.
Effectively, it's a concrete beach. And that's because it's probably next to a massive bridge crossing the river.
Ah, I see. And it just draws your eye towards the crowds of
What you
people.
need to understand as well about non-Western countries, and China, communist China is very close to the way the Soviet Union was developing. Again, the human life and human comforts are not that important. So people can rest on the concrete slope instead of having a proper sand or pebble.
Yes.
That's the thing. So it's basically a machine, a huge machine that's working, and people are very little parts of them. They're very little units.
And then this one, wow, look at that shot. That's amazing. That's a bridge being built. Yeah. It's kind of in progress. These are the kind of pictures that you want to also look at. Are they medium format?
They are medium format, and this is again old with new. This shot represents really good old and new, where you got those massive structures and then people living very old-fashioned kind of way in the village.
Yeah.
Again, this is 2006. Obviously, what we have with China now, it's more developed, a lot more developed than it used to be.
Yes.
And again, it's just showing the country on the brink of development.
Wow. Gosh. So that's a whole body of work. I do encourage you to go and have a look. So the photographer's name is Nadav Kanda with a K.
Yeah.
Very, very
So
interesting.
he's a contemporary photographer. He does fashion, he does advertising. You could see his work with John Lewis, for example. So very interesting. It's such a broad,
So versatile.
absolutely, and all his photography is amazing. I'd recommend that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Paul, we will absolutely put links to all of our for inspiring photographers and photographs in the description after the stream, because we've got it basically already there. We'll just pop it in there. Norm says, great photo of Muhammad Ali. I met him once in Montreal, shook his hand. He was very kind and thoughtful. That's
Very nice.
lovely.
You know what exactly pictures this moment? Him saying, "Get up and fight, sucker."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think
Yeah.
I would just lie down, and I would just say, "It's fine.
Yes, exactly. Don't. No, I'm done.
I'll take the money."
But yeah, there are. This is an incredible set of images. Now, your last choice of photographer, I believe, is Annie Leibovitz.
Yes.
Yes. So now, interesting enough, I also picked her as my sort of more modern day favorite. But then I left those photos on my desktop downstairs. So
And here I am.
And here you are. So that's very. I'm glad that you did that. I'm just intrigued whether you picked the same picture as me. No, you didn't.
No.
Okay, interesting.
I decided to skip all the obvious ones,
No, there's a very unobvious one that
Yeah.
I think it's unobvious.
but I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Because Annie Leibovitz, what's incredible about her, that she's working for so long now.
So many years.
And her style is developing all the time. She changed the styles quite frequently. She developed this traditional style of a painted backdrop at the back, which is now pretty much everyone is using for studio photography.
It's true.
At this point, it becomes. I really don't like the style of shots anymore. But she pioneered this style, and compare, let's say, her level of technical experience, just knowledge, is compared to photographers that use this style nowadays. It's completely different.
Yeah.
But a part of that, her starting with Rolling Stone, is obviously, have you seen this famous photograph of Yoko Ono with John Lennon
Yes.
on the day he was shot?
Yes.
Obviously, things like this, plus generally she photographed people that matter.
Yeah.
I can...
Everybody matters.
Yeah, luckily enough, I actually met her
Did
about
you?
5 years ago. A friend of mine, he is working as a retoucher for her in New York.
Oh, wow.
And they did this big exhibition, I think 3-4 years ago, called Women. It's ongoing work which she does. And she is such an example of just a very humble person. Her work ethic is amazing. What she does, this whole women body of work is amazing, because she photographs women, again, in this world, in this political world, without getting too deep into that, it's very important.
For sure.
So her work is not just stylistically amazing,
Yeah.
but also just the story it gives us.
Yes.
It's important, and it's important to know that.
And it is interesting how much her work really does tell stories. So this is Jennifer Lawrence, who I love as an actress, and also Helen Mirren, who I also love as an... No, that's Meryl Streep.
It's Meryl Streep.
I've just looked at it close up. That's Meryl Streep in a field with cabbages.
Lots of cabbages.
As you do. And
It's a harvest season soon.
yeah, exactly. And it's so interesting to see how her pictures tell a story, even though they're pictures of famous people, if you know what I mean, which I think is quite difficult, because the conventional thing to do when you take a picture of a famous person is slap them on a nice background and make them look pretty. But these are fantastic. The one that I'd picked, which I left downstairs, was actually a picture of Nicole Kidman. I don't know if you've seen that, with all the backlit, like she's walking away from a stage. But anyway, so...
Yeah, today she's still pushing the envelope.
Yes, yeah, exactly. A few other modern day photographers that I would recommend to have a look at, but for copyright reasons, I couldn't take their images, and just to show you, so I'm going to share their websites instead. If you ever are hungry, you should have a look at Donna Cruz's website. I'm going to hide our little faces here. Donna Cruz is a Nikon ambassador for the Nikon UK. She uses, who does she use? Rotolight for her lighting. She's done plenty of Nikon owner courses and workshops. I went to one of hers last year, sort of mid-lockdown. But her whole kind of style is very, I'd say, unique and very telling. When you look at a picture that she's taken, for example, this one of the honeycomb in the hand, it's so kind of lush. Do you know what I mean? It's like...
Almost looks like a soap.
Well, okay. I immediately
You
think
said lush, I said soap.
But every single image is very carefully thought out. If you ever listen to her talk or do any courses or workshops or anything like that, she talks about how she tries different things to find out what works. I like the ones where she uses her daughter as her assistant. So all of the hands, or most of the time, the hands are her daughter working with things. And whenever I see a picture of hers used in an ad campaign or a recipe book or anything like that, I always know it's her. Do you know what I mean? You can always tell it's got her kind of signature secret sauce on the picture.
Special look.
It does, and I love it. So that's Donna. Another one that I wanted to mention, who I think is very inspirational, is Joe.
Oh, I know him.
Is our mate Joe. I actually picked this image because it's a little bit different to what we normally show of Joe's. Joe is well known. Joe McNally is very well known for his portrait work, for his kind of, I would say, it's not documentary style. He's done a lot in hospitals and
lots of it is editorial. Yeah.
Yes, editorial. That was the word I was looking for. But there's something about this one that I particularly like. Whether it's the fact that he's shooting into the sun or the angle, it's obviously plane to plane. How
do you think it's flying to the moon?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's our new catchphrase.
Yeah, obviously. You got to put it in every stream.
That's right. But everything that Joe produces is so like top quality.
Do you think he saw that image of people having lunch on the skyscraper and then that's inspired him to take this shot?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. So maybe our showing the picture of the guys on the skyscraper having lunch will inspire other people to go stretch to new heights. Who knows?
And next photograph, you'll see Neil Armstrong taking a shot at the moon, yeah?
Actually, I didn't include that one because it wasn't supposed to be a sort of iconic photo stream. It was supposed to be inspiring.
You know, people say it's staged.
Oh, God. Okay, I'm not going to get
we're not going to go there.
Don't go there. So that's Joe. Another photographer that I would really love to share with you, but unfortunately his website is in progress. I mean, he had a website and he's taken it down.
Oh,
so,
Jim Brandenberg.
Yeah. And so he's done something a little bit different now. I'm going to just show the web page. Look at the bunny.
Aww.
Jim Brandenberg, I think, was having an issue with his website. I'm not entirely sure whether it was like a copyright issue or what. So he now just sells his prints through his site, through a sort of separate site. I'll show it to you. Photobuy. Or Photobee, don't know how you pronounce that. And you can find his collections on there, but you can't look at them full screen, let's say. And I don't entirely know what the reason for that is, but every single picture that this man takes is like a piece of art. So Jim Brandenberg for inspiration, I would say. I mean, I'm going to pull up a picture that you can buy, but if you just have a look at that, that's how large you can view it. So I couldn't really show it. Anyway, so Jim, for sure, I would recommend as an inspirational photographer. I think I've told the story before, but Neil Lucas went to stay with Jim in his on his little sort of cabin in the woods. Yeah. And they went for a walk and they both took exactly the same picture of the same thing. And Jim's came out with this like beautiful painterly effect, and Neil was looking at his camera and going, well, what did we do different?
He gets custom camera from Nikon, you see. That's
Maybe
why.
That's it. Jim also did, because that's what he does. He's a photographer. He's a nature photographer mostly. He did a challenge where he only took one photo a day for 365 days. This wasn't like I'm going to take a bunch of images and just pick one image. It was discipline. He had to discipline himself to go out and just take one image a day. And he released it in a book a few years back that I've now forgotten the name of.
Which had 365 images.
It did, yeah, exactly. But it was just interesting to also see, for someone who lives in such a remote part of the world, what he would take a picture of each day.
Absolutely. And what it tells us that you can shoot the same subject very differently. So you can approach wildlife photography from landscape point of view or portraiture.
Yeah.
So you don't just need to shoot action of flying birds. Yeah. You know, if you live somewhere and you live, like somewhere nice, and you love the area you live, you can approach it from different angles.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't even... I've spoken to a few people recently on the phone or via email who said, you know, after a year of being kind of confined to the same place, I'm getting very bored of taking the same pictures of the same tree or the same field or the same whatever. And it's actually, you know, quite a nice thing to change it up, change the perspective or the lens, or maybe go to the same location at a different time of day, at nighttime, for example, or try shooting at dawn.
Try to shoot another tree and come back to the same tree a year later.
Yeah.
You'll look at it differently.
Yeah, exactly. Or try and maybe do one thing that I should have thought about at the beginning of lockdown, which I didn't, was I would love to have done a sort of almost like a stop motion, stopped in the same place every day and taken a picture, or like every few days to see how it changes, and then turn that into some kind of time lapse. I think that would have been
Sounds
kind of
like
cool.
fun.
Yeah, exactly. So things like that are still possible, absolutely. But it's just this last year has given us more of an opportunity to do slightly different things.
Yeah, locally.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of you have made some fantastic suggestions of other photographers that inspire you. Baxton says Gregory Crewdson is a big inspiration. The modern photographers like Oliviero Toscanini. That's true, actually. Worked on Benetton, which was a very United Colors of Benetton. They were like quite controversial, their pictures, but now would seem completely normal. And George Chavallo, I don't know that one, actually. I don't know that photographer. Do you?
No, but we definitely will go through the
We
chat.
will.
after
We'll
and
have a
we'll
look
check
through the chat because there's been
suggestions,
so many wonderful suggestions. Thank you also to Paul for your contribution to the Coffee Fund. Been very much appreciated. For those of you who haven't liked us, please do give us a like. We're nearly done here for the day, so it'd be lovely to have a like from you before we wrap up. Any words of wisdom would you say to send people out? Because it's, at least in the UK, the weather is beautiful this weekend. It would be lovely to see some of your recreations, or even
the
just some
skyscraper picture, for example.
Yes, or not, as the case may be.
Don't sit on the bridge somewhere.
No, I mean you could, as long as it's safe. We're not going to recommend you do. We are not health and safety advisors.
Not a financial advice.
That's right. David says Joe McNally did a shot from the top of the Burj Khalifa, which is worth a look. Yes.
Yes, he did. We actually have the shot downstairs in our second-hand department.
We do. Yeah. It's we've got quite a few good shots from different people. We have
Tony Bennett.
We have a picture that he took of Tony Bennett, which was a portrait, but at a train station.
Yeah, it looks like somewhere in Queens, New York.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got a couple of Joe's pictures on the wall. We've also got, well, when next time you come to the shop, you can come and have a look at our gallery. We should buy some of the prints from these people, I think, and put them up and have the wall of inspiration. I think that would be nice. Sorry, George Chavallo is the boxer who fought Ali. Thank you, Randall, for clarifying that.
We know sports.
Yes, we do so much. This is why Foteini picked that shot, not me. And yes, if you've got any suggestions for other photographers, local, recent, later, whenever, please do feel free to mention their names in the comments. We'd love to just share the inspiration around a little bit, I think, this week, and, talk about something that doesn't involve just what camera and lens you should use, but...
That's true. And when we say inspired, you don't necessarily need to look at the image and recreate it.
No.
So this actually could be a good way to do that if you're learning, especially lighting. Get the famous shot in the studio or something and try to recreate it at home.
Exactly.
But a lot of the things when we say inspired us, it could be one element from one shot, another element from another shot, etc., etc. And then it becomes you. So you evolve into something with all those influences into something else, because it's, nowadays it's very difficult to be original. So every originality comes from mix of other things.
Yeah, exactly. Bill and Nick both mentioned David Yarrow. He was one that I also wanted to mention in my modern day photographers, actually, but didn't put him in there. What is that, a car alarm? Anyway, right. Dixon says take Instax pictures, which are like the current...
The Pokemon edition came out recently.
Yes, that's right.
It's going on a new podcast.
It will. I actually had a Fuji Instax Mini, but the retro style one, not the kind of candy colored one. And I used it for about a year, but I don't know. It didn't inspire me as much as I thought it would. So anyway, I passed.
It's a different approach, and I guess because you only have cassette with 10 pictures in there, and they're quite expensive, so it makes you think. But I think I still have Polaroid back from my RZ67.
I wish that I'd kept... I had a Polaroid camera when I was about 14, and of course it disappeared when one of the many house moves.
Is it the foldable one?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
And I wish that I still had it because they're so expensive now. So, and the film is obviously still compatible, even now the cassettes are. Some great suggestions here, like Damien DeMolder's street work.
Oh, yes.
Fantastic. We've featured him in Nikon Owner as well. And Eamon McCabe, Don McCullen, Mark Asperland, Bob Martin. I will be honest, I didn't put Don McCullin for the simple reason that it was almost too obvious. And because his pictures, although he does landscape work now, his pictures were, I would say, tough to sometimes look at. And there were plenty of very depressing pictures that I could have included.
Sometimes we need to see them to understand that trust is a war.
Absolutely.
And to see what the result of that. So because a lot of people are now trigger happy, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And there is a website which you might find interesting. If I can find the name of it, you might find this interesting as well. It was called, once the comment comes up, 100 Photos. It was a website actually created by Time, and they put a kind of collection of 100 influential pictures. As I say, there were a lot of very tough to swallow ones on there, but the things like the New York skyscraper shot, the New York Times kiss, the Muhammad Ali shot, a lot of those came from there. So if you're looking for kind of maybe something that will make you feel emotional, then that's a place to look. But we will put all of the links, as I say, in the description. And there's some fantastic suggestions coming in here. One more I want to win before we draw our prize. Do you have the names? You do. Okay, we will do the wheel of names today. So for anyone that missed the beginning, you're getting to win a copy of one of my first books. I have a lot of firsts, but this one is the first in a trilogy. Thank you, my lovely assistant, for holding that. It is a young adult urban fantasy, so if that's not what your cup of tea, then you can give it as a gift to someone who does like that.
Don't miss out, because once the movie comes out, it's going to be too late.
Exactly. Then it will be rebranded.
Then Becky won't be on the streams anymore. She'll be only 2 weeks.
I might squeeze in a stream here or there.
A guest appearance once a year.
Exactly. But you'll have to do them single-handedly.
Oh, it's fine.
All right, we ready for this?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. That's very loud today. It is Randall.
Yay.
Randall Brando. Well done. Well done. You get to win one of those. So do send over your address to media@graysofwestminster.co.uk. That is where you need to send your postage details so that we can pop that in the post to you. And just going to make sure there was a few more like, I want to win. I'm sorry, missed you. Yes, Bikash, we do know about Vivian Maier. In fact, we talked about her in yesterday's. What day of the week is it?
The bit where the sound go off,
yeah.
and it was all quiet. We had watch, read, and listen section, so we will re-record it for our next podcast.
We will.
But yeah, finding Vivian Maier, Amazon Prime in UK. If you're a member, you get it for free. Otherwise, you can rent it from YouTube. I think it's about $3.50. It's really good.
Yes, that's right. I realised that, of course, that got chopped off. Yeah. But we had some technical difficulties the whole time. We've managed to make it through this whole stream without technical difficulties. Touch wood.
And it's gone.
And it's over. But anyway, so we will re-record that for next week's podcast so that you'll be able to listen to it there. But in the meantime, if you would like to watch an amazing documentary, Finding Vivian Maier is another great one.
Becky's book is also available on Amazon.
Thank you.
So if you haven't won,
you can always buy it.
Exactly.
I've actually got
not my commission.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll remember that. I've actually got maybe 2 more of book 1, 2 more of book 2, and about 5 of book 3 that are signed that have an art print with them, which are available on my website. I don't normally plug myself, but if you do want one like that,
get in touch with Becky.
Then you can buy it from my website. All right, enough about me.
I don't sell anything still. But when I will.
When you will, we'll plug you as well.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this afternoon, for sharing what inspires you, photographers that inspire you, and for all your wonderful comments and feedback. We hope that you have a lovely weekend, and we will see you again next week for another stream.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.